Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today we are talking about a ship that will be returning very soon to this game. A ship that many players, of course, very much want to get their hands on every time she does become available. And this is a ship that is, I do believe, responsible for a fair amount of broken keyboards and mice. And that is none other than the Tier 10 Soviet light cruiser, the Smolensk. Yes, she will be returning in the auction once again in her black version. Now, for those of you that don't know, the black version is the exact same as the ship that you see on the screen right now. It's just a cosmetic difference between the Smolensk and the Smolensk B. All other stats are exactly the same. The armor, the guns, the consumables, everything about the ship is exactly the same, except for the way in which it looks. Now, the Smolensk has a bit of a reputation, and by a bit of a reputation, I mean an absolutely massive reputation. The Smolensk was first released, oh my god, I don't even know how long ago it's been since this thing came out. It's been quite some time, I can tell you that for sure. I have not so fond memories of getting bullied by this thing back not too long after I got my GK. Oh, good lord, I didn't think it was that long ago. August of 2019 is when this ship came out. Good god, that was 6 years ago, over 6 years ago. Man, I didn't think the ship was that old, but yeah, that's when this abomination came out. Although, I guess calling it an abomination is a little bit harsh considering that we have things like the Hildebrand in the game today. But yeah, 2019, this ship was released and started terrorizing the seas. Now, as you may notice, the Smolensk has 16 guns, 16 of the 130mm Soviet guns with all the Soviet goodness that comes with those guns. Meaning that, you know, her shells have fantastic air drag coefficients, and they're very comfortable to shoot at range and all that jazz. And the AP is very, very scary. A lot of people think that the Smolensk's strength is HE spamming, but my god, if you show any amount of broadside to this thing like we see in the background footage, it absolutely rips the ships that it can chew on. We'll talk about that more here in a second. But yes, the Smolensk is returning as a Smolensk B in the upcoming auction. Now, the Smolensk, last year when she was out at auction, she was sold for 35,000 doubloons, which is $140 US. So that's actually not that high above what a normal Tier 10 ship tends to cost, but do keep in mind that with the new rarity system, there's a chance that they might bump up that cost a little bit more. But either way, what we're going to do in today's video is talk about the Smolensk and how she's doing in today's World of Warships, and whether or not it is worth getting into this auction for the Smolensk. Now, first off, when is this auction happening? Well, given that this is, of course, an auction for Black Friday, I do believe there's a very good chance that she will be going up for auction the weekend of Black Friday. These auctions tend to run just over a weekend, so yeah, you've got about, this week and the rest of next week to prepare for, or should I say decide whether or not you do want to partake in the Smolensk B auction. If it happens before or after that, I wouldn't be surprised. Wargaming's timing has been very interesting with some things, but again, Black Friday, yeah, that's probably when it's happening. So keep your eyes peeled on the armory for that. So how is the Smolensk doing in the year of our Lord 2025? Well, one thing that I always like to talk about the Smolensk when we talk about how she's doing in today's World of Warships, I like to remind players that the Smolensk that you can acquire today is most certainly not the Smolensk you could acquire several years ago. The Smolensk has gone through quite a bit of changes over the years, mainly with the commander rework and AFT and BFT being removed from the cruiser commander skill tree. Those are the skills that players were using to get this ship out to, like, what was it, like 19 kilometers and change, which is absolutely terrifying, because that's what really got the Smolensk reputation back in the day. The ability for the ship to be farming you out fairly consistently from 19 kilometers plus, because again, you have those Soviet shells with the good ballistics and such, so you could easily farm out, you know, big targets like battleships at 19 kilometers with the Smolensk back in the day. Thankfully, that is no longer the case, and the maximum range you can get on a Smolensk now is just a little bit over 16 kilometers, which is still decently far, but you're not, chewing through battleships at 19 kilometers plus, only at almost at 20 kilometers with a friggin' light cruiser anymore. So now, basically, if you do want to get that 16-kilometer range, you have to take the range module on the Smolensk, whereas in the past, you could have a 16-kilometer range, which is plenty comfortable with the Smolensk, but you can take the reload module and have a crazy fast reload time. But now, just to get 16 kilometers, you have to take the range module, and it's a lot more tolerable of a ship to be on the receiving end of when you're dealing with, the Smolensk like you see set up in the background right now, right? That's a lot more balanced of an engagement rather than getting farmed down from 19 kilometers plus with old Smolensk. So, with that disclaimer out of the way, the ship is still doing pretty darn good in 2025. I mean, obviously, any decent HE spammer is going to be doing well pretty much no matter when in World Warships. And the fact that you do have 16 shells that you're still throwing at the target plenty friggin' fast, yeah, you're going to be getting fires, I won't say left, right, and center, because my Smolensk seems to hate starting fires, even though I have the flags and I have, the commander skill, demolition expert, whatever it's called for cruisers now, where I get that bump in my fire chance. My Smolensk just doesn't really seem to want to set a lot of fires, but when I play against Smolensk, then it's just a friggin' barbecue all over my deck. Right. The HE cannon also only been 22 millimeters of armor, which, yeah, it's not 32, but again, with the amount of shells you're going to be sending down range, it's not really going to be a problem, because you have a 4.5 second reload time. Then, you can either take the reload module, the range module, which you're going to want to take the range module to get that 16 kilometer range, because if not, you're stuck with a 13.8 kilometer stock range, which is very, very short range, and definitely within the not so comfy zone for Smolensk because of her armor. The ship does have quite bad armor, and she doesn't have the world's highest amount of hit points either. I think she does actually have like either the lowest or the second lowest of all the tier 10 cruisers when it comes to HP, so do keep that in mind. Now, of course, with having barely any armor, that can very much be a big help in some situations, like when you're going up against battleships, which was a big frustration with dealing with Smolensk back in the day. The ship's armor is so bad, it's actually nice when you're engaging most battleships, because the shells just zip on through you. Of course, if you run across like a Conqueror that has AP loaded, or really even HE of the Conqueror, they will probably Citadel you. And when you run up against other cruisers, they can pretty much just annihilate you. If they even have if they just have AP, you're gonna have a very bad day if they run up on you and they catch you with your pants down. Now, in order to prevent you from getting caught with your pants down, the Smolensk does come with a smoke screen, which is one of her best tools. You pop the smoke, you can easily send the smoke and just farm for days, right? If something's in your range, pop your smoke, farm for the duration of that smoke. You're probably going to have like an easy 50,000 damage by the time that smoke has ran out, if not more, obviously, depending on how RNG likes your fires. And the thing is, too, even if the smoke screen isn't available, you can still, hug islands and abuse island cover to your advantage, greatly so, like you'll also see in this game in the background. So it's not like it depends on the smoke screen. Obviously, no light cruiser truly 100% depends on its smoke screen. You can use island cover rather than just sit in your smoke and farm, and you should be using island cover in all light cruisers, obviously if they have the arcs to do so, but even just popping in and out from behind an island every now and then, yeah, you should definitely get used to that. A big downside of the Smolensk, though, well, not really big downside of the Smolensk, but a lot of traps that, a trap that I see Smolensk drivers falling into pretty constantly, I should say, is that they get a little bit too comfy in that smoke. Keep in mind, with the rate that you'll be pumping out shells, it's not that hard for players to postulate your position on your smoke screen, and they'll just blind fire you. And again, with how thin the armor is, a wayward shell can very much end your fun. And also, destroyers will definitely be hurling torpedoes at you, because you are the bane of many a destroyer's existence. As much as battleships hate you, destroyers hate you even more, because Smolensk can and will absolutely just consume destroyers. I mean, 16 130mm shells coming at you every 4.5 seconds. I don't care what destroyer you're in, that's a bad time right then and there. So you definitely want to be using your hydroacoustic search, which you can pick between that and DFAA, so you pick hydro rather than the wrong option. And definitely use that when you are in smoke. Just pop that up, let it run, because if not, you're probably going to catch a broadside of torpedoes because you're too busy focusing on whomever it is that you are farming down. And obviously, too, if destroyers pop up, please, by all means, do shoot them. I mean, keep in mind, even with just your forward guns, you're hurling 8 shells at the enemy destroyer. You get all your guns on target. You're hurling 16 shells at them, and that's what 28,000 and change alpha per salvo. That's most of a destroyer's HP, right? And you're throwing that at them every 4.5 seconds, Obviously, that is alpha damage, right? But I'm just saying that's a lot of damage to be throwing at a destroyer every 4.5 seconds, with 2.0 Sigma as well. So it's terrifying to destroyers. Battleships hate it. So, obviously, it's a pretty darn good light cruiser. Oh, it has torpedoes, too. I completely forgot about the torpedoes. Yeah, it has torpedoes. And unlike most other Soviet cruisers, they're actually, usable. They have an 8-kilometer range, which is wild because there's plenty of Soviet ships in the cruiser line that have, 4-kilometer torps. So, yeah, I mean, they're 8 kilometers. They do 14,400 damage. You get 5 of them per side. It's quite useful if someone does try to run up on you, be it a cruiser or a battleship, or if you're hugging an island next to another ship. You can outrun their turrets or something. You can pop around, throw some torpedoes into their side. So yeah, I forgot about that as well. But yes, it is still a very, very good cruiser. Is it worth 35,000 doubloons? Which is what they're probably going to, at the minimum, ask for it for Black Friday. Well, I mean, considering that a lot of other Tier 10 cruisers, if you do buy them outright in the premium shop, cost $130, $140, that's about right on Wargaming scale for a Tier 10 ship. Now, please note, when I say, okay, that's about right, that's about normal for a Tier 10 ship, yes, I am talking about $130, $140 pixel purchase. I'm just saying, on Wargaming's own scale, where they price ships, that's about right. Now, obviously, it is an auction. It can go higher than that. It probably won't go any lower than that because that's the minimum bid for the Smolensk, but it's pretty darn good if you know what you're doing in light cruisers. So, while I can't really say, yeah, go ahead and, throw $140 at the game, it definitely hasn't lost its edge here in the past few years. Obviously, after the Commander rework where she got her real nerfing, right? It's still a good cruiser. So if you do spend the money on it, you are getting a good light cruiser. I'd be lying if I told you otherwise. I mean, look at what the battleship ape, the secondary battleship brawler, that's his playstyle I love. Look what I'm able to do in the Smolensk. So if you are a cruiser main, a light cruiser main, and you've been, waiting for the Smolensk to come back, and you've been waiting for this auction to pop up, and you just want to know if the ship is still good, the ship is still good. If you weren't planning on getting the Smolensk, it's not a ship. I don't think it's a ship that need to drop what you're doing, spend the money that you've been saving for something else in order to get this ship. Because at this point, it's going to keep coming back every Black Friday, it seems. So sure, you may not get it this time, but if you do grow to love light cruisers, or you do want one next year, it's going to be here next year. Wargaming makes too much money from selling this thing in the auction to not do it, right? But anyway, guys, that is my 2 cents on the Smolensk in 2025. Still a great ship, but definitely not anything you need to rush out and buy the second it pops up in the auction. So guys, let me know what you guys think about the Smolensk in the comments down below. Hope you guys have a wonderful Tuesday, wonderful rest of your week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.